Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and today we have with us Ian Haycroft. His purpose is to support the awakening of as many people as possible so that together we can build and sustain peaceful and just communities. He is focused on the impact of awakening on the world we all live in. And our planet and our communities are faced with existential issues that cry out for an awakened approach to solutions. And he believes that the most effective solutions will come from the wisdom within each of us. Welcome to the show, Ian. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Thanks, Jill. No, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, you are so welcome. I've been looking forward to this conversation. It's been a long time coming because I had personal issues, and then we almost didn't get to do it again because of my internet. It's just like, I know this is going to be important, the things we're going to talk about today. And I am right along with you in terms of awakening the humans on this planet to their potential and shining a light on what they're doing, because I really think it's important that each of us step into the thing that we're gifted with. We don't have to be great at everything, just that one thing that we're meant to share and to help others with. And I think that's the way that we're going to really push the world into this new, better, kinder, gentler place for us all to live.
Yeah, I sure hope so. It's kind of a mouthful when you read it out like that, right? But I just think the older I get, the more I think that's the key, right? It's the capacity for us to figure out how to really get on with each other isn't in the kind of cool systems we build or the platforms we are on or any of those. I mean, those are all good, right? But it's about the internal discovery of who we really are. And I think that's what it's about. And I think it's much easier than what most people think. That's my sense. Yeah.
I agree with that. And how much do you think that your travels, you live in Australia? We should catch everybody up. So why don't you just go ahead and give the short story of your story so that people can kind of get in on the conversation that we've already started.
Yeah, no, so the short version of a long story is, I'm Australian, born in Australia, born and raised in Australia. Back in the 70s, when I went to university, the thing that most Australians did and still do actually is take a year off after study and go travel. So I did that 1976 to go find my guru in India and think, I was sure I was going to get enlightened within a couple of months and then come back and, change the world. And I got back to Australia 22 years later instead of the 3 months. So went from India across Europe traveling and then to the States and hitchhiked across the States and met my now wife and stayed in America for 20 years, had a family of 6 kids in America, love America. And then worked in China for 3 years and had one of those, as many people have those moments in their life when it's like, okay, now what am I going to do when I grow up? we returned to Australia via a year in New Zealand. And so 6 kids, 47, and I realized I cannot do the corporate thing anymore. I just cannot. And so I got into a natural healing modality called kinesiology and had a clinic, and then helped start a crowdfunding financial services business, and started doing when COVID hit, I started doing the kinesiology work online and discovered I also love to mentor people. And so I've been doing that online from now. I'm in rural Australia, the wonders of the internet, right? I'm literally up a dirt road where nobody goes. And I'm talking to you. And I talk to people all over the world, online, and mentor and coach, and trying to also build a community of, what some of us are working on, which we call the wisdom path. So that's the short version of a long story.
I love it. It's so amazing that we can meet in a space that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And we're thousands and thousands of miles away, because I'm in
Yeah.
the US, and we're together,
Yeah.
but we're not. We're kind of like those particles that are there and they're
Yeah. A lot of people ask me, it's like, how do you do kinesiology? Kinesiology is about muscle testing and those kinds of things. And people go, well, how can you do that on the internet, right? So again, a long story but the short version is because we're just energy, right? We can connect, and I was skeptical myself about, wow, we'll be able to talk about important things over this, online, but actually it's pretty amazing, and it's only going to get more amazing, right? As we, you know, holograms aren't too far away, and we'll be able to actually meet each other, So I think it opens up the potential for amazing new communities, which are already existing, right? It's not like it's going to happen. It's already, I mean, you have a
yeah.
community. You have a community. People have communities that aren't the people that live around them.
Mhm.
So amazing, right? Amazing.
I actually have an online community on Facebook, and we're like 2 people shy. By the time this posts, we'll be way past this, but we're almost to 1,500 members. The thing I love about that community are 2 things. One is that it's more international than it is local to the US. More than half the people that belong to that community are from other places in the world. And we're talking all over the world, everywhere. And the other thing that I love about the community is I know personally, I've talked to almost everyone in the community. I personally invite them into the community. I have a conversation with them. It's a real community where we really do interact with each other and support each other and network and collaborate, and so many fun things are coming out of the community. It's just like, oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing doorway to possibilities, right? I mean, one of the things I'm working on is um, working on a platform where people like communities like yours can get together and actually start investing money into things that they think are important, right? And again, there's another whole podcast, so I won't bore you with it, but whereby people can share equity in things that they really feel are important, right? So
Mhm.
the possibilities of that, which were really non-existent really 10 years ago, we had to go through the financial services world and the big institutions. That's all changing rapidly, right? So we'll be able to invest in things without having to be multimillionaires that we really believe are important. So for me, that's exciting possibilities. Yeah.
I'm getting this image of, I mentioned the particles, but I'm getting this image of, how there's atoms, individual of elements, but when the elements are joined together, new and amazing creations happen. Well, I look at
Mm.
collaboration kind of that way, where we're just like we're each individual elements, and we have like gifts. We're all gifted in some way, and we have some reason for being here. And I think that's one of your callings is to connect people and to help them really realize why they're here. What's your purpose and how can you best fit in? Because kind of what mine is too. But
Yeah.
it's just like we're like the little sticks in the molecule models.
Yeah. Yeah.
Join
But,
people together.
yeah, and I really discovered that when I got into the healing work, right?
Mhm.
And in the corporate, mostly international relief work in my working life, right? But then as I got into the healing work, I started dealing with lots of people who feel like they're broken, right?
Mhm.
And have lots of issues, right? And I just began to discover that the most important part of us is not broken. Yeah, I mean, we all have stuff, right? But actually, when we can connect with each other and recognize that there's something in us that is fundamental that's not broken, right? It's why we can love our kids, even though sometimes they are less than perfect.
Oh no,
So
not mine.
no, no, not mine either. Mine were perfect always,
Mine
right?
are always great.
But as parents, we see that in our children.
Mhm.
Despite all the broken bits, which every person has, there's something fundamental that is so important to love that's lovable, right? And people don't experience that with themselves enough, right? So there's a kind of epidemic of worthlessness that, so many people don't feel worthy of this or that. And so I do think it's important for us to help each other discover that there is something fundamentally not broken, and I would even say divine, about every human. So if we can connect on that, then sure, we got broken bits. Yeah. But if we can connect on that, which is most important, we can build communities that reflect that. I just believe it's true. And I think it's coming, it's happening. And again, it's not like it hasn't existed, but I think the, the world is changing so rapidly that um, what used to feel like communities, local communities, are really struggling, right? So, um, but the internet appears to be breaking it in lots of ways. But I think there's also the other side of that is the potential to build online communities that are real. They actually are really real, and that can actually then help heal and rebuild the people around us. So I just think
Yeah.
that that's not a crazy dream. I think it's happening.
Oh, I believe it's happening also. It's just like you look around. Again, it's why I do what I do. I talk to coaches who are making a real difference. You just have to impact one or two people's lives, and that ripple effect goes out forever because those people are going to touch somebody else's life. And no two people are doing the same thing. They may be other kinesiologists, but they're going to be
Mm.
different than you because they're not you. And we don't
Yeah.
have to compete with each other. We can just be ourselves. And I think that whole we're not good enough thing was just it's a mechanism to keep you small, to keep you trapped and to keep you under control. Because I think there is an element in the world that wants to control everything to
Mm.
their advantage. And it doesn't benefit the whole world, it just benefits a few. Whereas I think the bottom is rising up saying, hey, I don't have to be really great at everything. I can just be really good at this one thing. And and it's enough. And I'm
Yeah.
enough just to be that in that spot.
Yeah. Amen to that. Right. I mentor, business leaders, right? And a lot of people think, oh, well, they've got there because they've got it together. Well, so many of them struggle and also, wonder how they can handle it. And people say, but business people don't want to talk about this internal spiritual stuff about discovering the wisdom within. And I say, absolutely not. There more and more, I think that there's a recognition that if we can't find the inner reserves of resilience, and I think that's another way of saying wisdom,
Yeah.
then we don't cope well, right? And lots of people in their working life often don't feel like they're coping well, and particularly those who are kind of designated leaders, right? They're and I think often we look outward for, okay, if I can just, get this self-help program and do that self-help program, I'll be okay. And I think sometimes that's a bit like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, right? It's like I know how that works. I've taken so many self-help programs in my life,
Mhm.
and I think one of the discoveries that was important for me was, oh, there's something much more simple and fundamental rather than being cool at this or good at that, or having my time management skills improved, all of which are good, right? But there's a internal wisdom that is uh, available to everybody. And I think when we discover that, then we have the capacity to work with people in ways that we never thought were possible.
Yeah. And not chasing after things. It's the going in instead of wanting more out there. It's it kind of runs on the same lines as like the victim mentality. I don't have XYZ, so obviously I haven't arrived yet. You're never going to arrive. No one ever arrives. It's a journey. It's a circular journey in a lot of ways. It's a spiral. You're just going to keep going round and round, and it's just going to get bigger, and you're going to have new experiences. But we're here for a reason, and it's not to have the biggest house and yachts and or whatever your idea of I've arrived is. Sometimes
Yeah,
just pulling in and realizing you're enough. You have enough. You are enough. There will always be enough. You're breathing.
yeah.
That's it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think often people feel like, oh, this is kind of spiritual woo stuff, right? But actually, I think it's more and more, it's just everyday stuff where, I mean, I'm not, sitting on a cushion, looking at the world. I'm involved with the world, with my kids, with stuff, with my local community, all that. I mean, and often people feel like, oh, that's the real stuff, and the internal stuff is that spiritual stuff. And I think, no, they're absolutely connected. You don't have to give up one for the other. Just take a bit more time to look inside and discover what's there. To them, there's an infinite resource of peace and happiness there that can be involved in everyday life.
It
They're not set.
enhances everyday life, don't
Yeah,
you think?
absolutely. Absolutely right. And I think, and my sense is that more and more people are having that experience, often because they kind of hit a wall and go, well, all the stuff doesn't make me happy. Or, I've tried so many relationships that have fallen over. What's going on? That's my experience, and I think it's everyone's experience. We hit walls in our life and realize, uh-oh, I
That
thought
didn't
that was
work.
gonna be it. That was gonna be it, right? And none of that stuff is it, right? They're all important, but um, discovering the kind of inner stillness that empowers can empower everything that we do in everyday life, including work, business, family, all of those things. Yeah. So that's where I think uh, there's a lot of hope because we're all humans.
Yeah. We're all unique, and we're just all on this journey, and it can be so fun if we could just relax and enjoy the process. That happened to like
Yeah.
push people into boxes that they don't fit in.
Yeah. No, there's a particular teacher I've been listening to a lot recently called Rupert Spira, and he talks about what's sometimes called a non-dual view of the world. And essentially the the idea is that actually we all arise from one consciousness, whatever name you want to give that consciousness.
Yep.
Um, and so we're not separate from each other. And again, people go, oh, that's go, oh, Buddhism, that kind of, but actually
It's
it's just true. We're not separate from one another. And when we uh, think we are, and then we start fighting and wars, and that's the tragedy. Um, we're actually not. We're not. We cannot be disconnected. So I think more and more, if we can experience the fact that we're not disconnected, we are connected, then we'll start to act that way. And clearly human history would show that it's not an easy path, but the path we're on just leads to more destruction, right? So better to find ways to actually experience that we are not disconnected wherever
Do you
we live.
feel like we're kind of at a fork in the road right now, where, or maybe a better way is like there's two parallel things happening. You've got on the one side this, fear-induced, they've got more than I've got, so we better fight with them thing going on. And politics, I think, is mainly in that category. And then you've got this other path that I'm finding more and more people are wanting to travel on, which is, just do you. Be nice. My daughter used to say, love God and don't be a dick.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it can really just be that simple. Just be kind and do you. And it's okay if everybody doesn't agree with you. It's okay for you to be different. Not everybody is going to love you.
Mm.
A few will. And that's all that matters. You're going to have an impact on those few who are going to have an impact on somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, I think all through history, probably people have felt they're at a fork in the road. I think history is full of what people
Yeah.
go, "Oh, like we're at a fork in the road." So, but do I think so? Yes, right. I think we are, but it's because of the power that we now yield over the environment and each other.
Mhm.
I think it's existential in the sense that we could not exist if we do this, if we get this wrong. We're
Yeah.
human, right? So, um, and I don't think I'm alone in that feeling at all. And so then the stakes, uh, and so sometimes the stakes feel so high that it's just scary, right? But I think again, the other side of that is if we recognize the stakes are high, then we will really be moved to find a way that works that's different. I mean, there's so many examples when disasters happen. It's amazing how the best in humans so often comes out, right?
Right.
Cyclones hit, earthquakes hit, and people really get out there and help each other, right? Because I think it's profoundly natural, right? So um, as we feel that, wow, we could get rid of ourselves here if we're not careful, then I think it calls the best in us. Um, and I don't think that's just foolish optimism. I think the potential for that to happen is growing. And like you say, there's more and more people. Uh, you know, there's there are so many wonderful communities in real time, that is places on the earth, but
Mhm.
also um, virtual communities of real people. There are so many wonderful communities doing wonderful things or wanting to do wonderful things. So I think one of the things that, and it's certainly something that I'm trying to work on myself in my own small way, is to link those wise communities together so that they can recognize, oh, okay, so we are not alone. We are not alone in this. And um, my hope is, I think there's some big changes in the financial systems coming where crowdfunding will open up a door for many, many people to actually not just talk about doing better things, which is very important, but actually then investing in things to go, I think that's an important thing to do in the world, and I want to be part of that, and not having to be a multimillionaire to do it. So I
I
think
love that.
lots of good things are on the way, or not. They're already here. It's just I think with the right heart we can bring those together.
Uh, that is just like, it's so encouraging to hear that. and for people to realize that just individuals matter. You matter.
Mm.
And the decisions you make matter. It's not like somebody next door is going to be responsible for all of these things that are changing. It's you, what you think, how you feel, what you're bringing to the table, and the decisions that you make. And,
Yeah.
a drop of water will weigh a mountain given enough time.
Yeah, and we live in the country, right? And we've got a beehive, right? That
Mhm.
we Actually my wife does the work, not me, but she, and people often use beehives as an amazing example, right?
Mhm.
But they are amazing the way they work together. But each bee is required, right? And and again, I mean, humans are not bees, right? But wow, we could learn a lot from them, the way that they work together and support each other, know how they can best support each other, all those things. So I think that we've miscued on the power of individualism. I think we are each unique, but we got to figure out how to work together.
Yeah. Yeah. And how to what our purpose is and get really good at the thing that we're supposed to be really good at so we can
Yeah.
contribute. You were talking about working over on Substack these days. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a fascinating platform. And
Yeah, no, me too. This is video, right? So I'm a little bit older these days, and I retired from my day job, which was in a crowdfunding venture capital business in
Mhm.
Australia. Um, and that when I ended that work there, I felt, okay, so, well, I'm not going to just take care of the horses, although that's good too. I want to do something, but I just, I don't feel good about Facebook, Instagram, because I feel like they've um, warped the idea of community. That's
Mhm.
my experience. So I didn't want to go on that course, even though I have those. I just thought, oh, and I don't want to, and I'm not really good at it anyway. And I just was sitting and contemplate what will I do. And someone said to me, oh, have you looked at Substack? And I went, oh, another platform. But I jumped on and I realized, wow, it was so easy to set up, right? So easy to use. Even, as my kids look at how I text on the phone, right? And they get, Dad, you look like a chook in a yard, right? And my kids go, oh. I asked them, how do I do this, right? And my kids know how to do all that stuff, right? But I was on Substack and I realized there's a community of people there, growing community of people writing about and these days podcasting about and now videoing about things that are important to them. And it's a subscriber supported model. So there's no ads and you can do lots of things for free. Um, but also people are then making a living on it. And I thought, well, I could try that. So I'm only just new on it, but I feel it's a wonderful platform to actually have real conversations with people. I'm having conversation with people. I don't have to show them how cool my meal is and how my life's just perfect. Check me out on the beach, and it's like it's just a chance to talk to people all over the world about what's important to them, and of course, then we discover there's lots of themes of common interest. So I've really enjoyed it. I think, and it's growing and clearly is still developing. And but it's a place where I finally felt like, oh, okay, I can just be me on that, say what I think's important. Anybody else think that's important? And you got anything to add? And lots of people have respectful. It's not this toxic place where people just throw nastiness at each other. Actually, it's a respectful, well, has all the potential to be a great place to communicate. So I've enjoyed it. Yeah, a lot.
and they're really smart people that are. I mean,
Yeah.
they explore some. I was introduced to it by Cliff High, and most people probably don't even know who he is, but he developed some linguistic software about 20 years ago where he was, I don't know if you heard about that basket experiment they were doing about the consciousness picking up on clues about what was coming.
Mm.
It was really a fascinating experiment, but Cliff was doing that with around linguistics and around what was being talked about on the internet, and he calls the internet for potential things coming.
Mm.
And he talks about it, and he talks about it while he's driving his car. He
Mm.
got me into cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin specifically, early on, because he's always like, this is going to take off. This is going to take off. Um, and he was right. He even caught the coronavirus. He said it was coming up as the sun disease, and this was like a good 10 years before the
Mm.
coronavirus hit. So yeah. And he was over on Substack, and then I went over there to see what he was doing, and then I saw all of the other people that are over there. A lot of the reporters that kind of got squeezed out of the journalistic part
Yeah.
of the world, they're writing over there, and they have some interesting things to say, and it's not like they have to be right. They're
Mm.
just talking about stuff that matters, and they're sharing their opinions, they're sharing their research. And a lot of these people do a whole lot of research before they put information out up there, which
Yeah.
is, it's so refreshing. Sometimes I just want the research. I can make up my own mind about stuff if you give me the research.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I mean, there's a writer who I've really admired for a long time. Her
Mhm.
name's Rachel Botsman. She
Mhm.
writes about trust, right? And she teaches at, I think, Oxford or Cambridge. Um, and I thought, oh, she's someone I think's really amazing, right? And what she thinks is great, I think. And she's on Substack. So I go, okay, so I subscribe for free, right?
Mhm.
And she writes stuff, and I write a comment back, and then she goes, wow, that's really cool. What do you think about that? And so I'm having this
Conversation.
conversation with someone who I really admire the way she thinks, who is openly going, oh, that's a cool thought. Maybe I'll write about that. And so that quality of interaction, again, I think um, it's hard to find on other platforms at the moment. And so I think I'm really hopeful about that. And so all kinds, and a range of topics, right? So
Yeah.
find the thing that is most important to you and talk to those people, and you discover there's a community of people who care about this stuff. It's like, wow, okay. And from there we can actually, I think, again, interact and build on that to actually then feed that energy and goodwill back into the communities we actually live in, right? And so I think that interaction, which I think is missing, I think the internet is somehow not the only thing, right, but has contributed to the breaking of what feels like our local community. I think can be a potential vehicle for reinvigorating and the communities we actually live in, right? So
Gives
that's my
us
hope.
things to talk about. When television had, it seemed to me, replaced thinking. People would watch TV and they would be told what to think, and then, depending on where you're getting that programming from, that's your position. Whereas some of these platforms, and Substack in particular, where you're having really intelligent, interesting conversations about, the what ifs. Nobody has to be right. You can just explore the ideas. And I think it's the exploring of the ideas that bigger and more interesting ideas and ways of doing things, or inventions even, come out of that kind of um interaction with thinkers. And then you take it to your local community. You talk about it at the dinner table, you talk about it with your friends when you're doing stuff. It's like, hey, did you hear about this? Let me tell you what I heard. And it's you're talking about ideas instead of people.
Yeah.
it's it just elevates the whole frequency of the environment.
No, absolutely. And that's why and again, I mean, I'm biased, right? Because I've been in a crowdfunding platform, right? But crowdfunding used to be, support I'm gonna make a CD. Will you send me $10 and I'll give you a free? It's really growing and changing, right? I mean, our business raised $300 million so far, right?
Mhm.
It's not tiny, and there are many of these platforms growing, right? So then, I can imagine like on Substack, a community of surfers, people who love surfing, right? And talk about it, all that, which is fantastic. And for them, they often go, our beaches are so full of plastic these days. What can we do? And someone may come up with a business that actually is a new way for cleaning beaches. I'm just using it as an example. So those
Yeah.
people can go, and I can invest in it for $200. I can be an equity holder in a business across the world that's cleaning beaches, right? Rather than having to go to big institutions to get $1 million. So lots of people can join together to actually begin to then do something about cleaning up the beaches and doing it in a way that's financially viable, right? Rather than, oh, it's too hard. So I think that's already happening and will happen on larger and larger scale, I think, in ways that I think we've yet to get our heads around.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. It doesn't take, you know, we each don't have to contribute a lot of money to make a big difference when there's a bunch of us all moving in that one direction. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe your friend isn't into surfing, but you tell them about it and they're like, hey, yeah, but I like beaches. So, they're
Mm.
going to want to be part of it. And then who knows what they're going to do with the trash because, spider goats who there's these goats that live around here that you can spin silk out of the milk. They're Somebody
Yeah.
thought of this and they're using it for real applications. But who knows what? Yes, the beaches need cleaned up, but what about all of the stuff that they're collecting? What is that going to be? And what's the potential for that? It's just like
Yeah.
blows my mind. It's so exciting.
On any given day in the world, there are thousands of new businesses started with great ideas. Like
Mhm,
there's already amazing technology for using trash usefully, right?
mhm,
And every day, new possibilities, right? But often the barrier is funding.
mhm.
How do we get it off the ground? And again, the traditional financial services financial system is not well designed currently to really support that. Most new businesses fail, right?
Yeah.
But if we can develop platforms that actually really safely, legally um, bring the potential for crowdfunding for people to invest in things they believe in, um, the change will be massive. There's trillions of dollars out there not being used properly, right? So, and again, but wisely, right? So that's where, for me, the link is there's a wisdom within. People want to do things that really help the world. It's not just about making a buck.
Mhm.
We can do both, sustainably do good things in the world and support each other with that, then that's a potential we haven't had uh, historically. So
Yeah.
for me, scary on the one side and the potential on the other is, I think, profoundly important. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do people find you over on Substack?
I think they just uh, put in my name, Ian Haycroft. I think if they search it, um, I've got a site called Living Your Wisdom, Live Your Wisdom. So um, I think just put my name in. I think it'll come up. It's pretty simple search engine.
Okay, we will do that. And you do help people when it comes to coaching. You help
Yeah,
professionals?
yeah. So I used to do healing work, which I still do, right? So I
Mhm.
work with individuals with things they want to resolve in their lives. But over time, I also discovered that mentoring was something I really enjoyed doing, So rather than just kind of healing, but mentoring, working with people, and often in business. So I've got a wisdom within course, 10-week process that I work with people on to help them what I call discover the wisdom within, and how to actually integrate that in their everyday life, and particularly in their work. So yeah, I still work with individuals, and I'm working on building retreats and working with larger groups as well. Yeah.
That is fantastic. So this has been an amazing conversation. I have enjoyed it so much. Ian, what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from the conversation? I know we've covered so much.
I think on an individual level, you're not broken. Yeah, we have stuff, but there's an essential part of us that is not broken, which is fundamentally wise, and I would say divine. And if we can connect on that, there's amazing things we can do together.
We'll leave it with that. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. And that's been great. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.